Communication, Mr. Fabio Colasanti. Okay, I pronounced it right. Okay, perfect. The reason of this conversation, we just want to talk about, at first, the mission of IIC.
Well, the International Institute of Communications, that has been in existence for now more than 40 years, wants above all to be a forum where issues of interest for the audiovisual and the telecom industry are discussed. And we pride in doing this job in a very independent way that is recognized by all participants. We try to create, to organize seminars that will really give something to the participants. A lot of effort goes into looking for speakers who are real experts in their field, who are recognized as such by their peers. And usually people are very satisfied with the quality of the discussions. And we have many people who keep coming to our events just for this reason, because they consider that there is a very good quality of the discussions.
And most of your guest speakers and participants are regulators, policymakers.
We have, this is another strength of the International Institute of Communications. The Institute lives thanks to the membership fees paid by the organizations that have decided to join it. Half of the organizations who have joined the International Institute of Communications at the moment are regulators. And regulators form an important part of our public, of our speakers, of our members, as I've just said. But we even have a special event for regulators that is organized back-to-back with our annual conference. This event is called the International Regulators Forum, and it is a closed-door seminar only for regulators that apparently is appreciated very much by the participants because it provides an occasion for very senior people, board members of chairs of regulatory bodies, to interact with one another in a very informal way for 2 days and discuss issues of common interest. Apparently, there aren't that many other occasions in the world for regulators to do that, and that's why we have this great interest. Since we organize this event back-to-back with the annual conference, we also have a large number of regulators who stay on for the conference. And so we have a higher than usual participation of regulators and a few policymakers, which makes the conference particularly appealing for industry, for academics, for anyone else. And this particular conference in Singapore has been a good example of this, because some of the most remarkable interventions have come from regulators who have tried to explain to industry how they try to develop the most appropriate regulation, task that, as everybody knows, is very difficult.
And this is the third time that this annual conference has been held in Singapore. We have seen that IIC has moving to this region in particular, closer and closer and more. What is the reason behind?
Well, you can say that we are simply reflecting trends in the world economy to begin with. But I would say over and above this, there is the fact that not only the Asia region is growing in economic importance, but that the telecom and media industry are blossoming. And that they are in a phase of transition. You have had liberalization a little bit later than other countries, but now it is picking up very well. So there is a lot of interest in this region for a number of regulatory solutions that may be for issues that have already been addressed in other countries. And the result is that we have seen a big interest from the participants. This is, as you said, the third time that we are in Singapore, but 2 years ago we organized one of our roving seminars in Hong Kong, and again we had a very large participation, and I'm sure that we will certainly follow our policy of geographical diversification, but we shall again be in the region very soon. Next year the conference will be in London. Probably the next year we might be going to North America, but who knows, we might be returning to Asia.
Okay, talking about this region, ASEAN region, everybody is cutting down to 2015, the ASEAN Economic Community, and also on sociology and culture and security, just to make sure we cover all the base. What do you think will be the biggest challenge of this region to face in communication industries?
I think that this region will be very efficient in developing the infrastructures. It has already shown that it has either an industry that is very dynamic, or sometimes where industry doesn't seem to be moving fast enough, governments are prepared to intervene. So I don't see many problems from the side of the infrastructure. Probably the biggest difficulties will come in the content area, because there are many challenges that are coming from the development of new technologies. These challenges are challenges to sometimes the cultural identity, the values of different groupings, and probably Asia still has more varied and distinct cultures, a set of ethical values than, say, Europe or North America. So probably in this region, issues relating to content, to protection of minors, to what kind of content should be allowed, will probably be more important and more controversial than they have been in North America and in Europe.
So I think the next question is a little more, maybe a little more complicated, I don't know, but how do you measure the influence, or how do you measure the success the IIC or the conference in particular have an effect on the industry?
There is no way you can measure the impact. You can, because after all, the real impact comes from the ideas that people take away, how they will change their view of a certain problem on the basis of a certain discussion. And let's be honest, there is no way you can measure that. What reassures us for the time being is that we seem to have quite a lot of positive feedback. I was surprised by the number of people who spontaneously came to see me to tell me how satisfied they were. But perhaps there is a more concrete element, and that is the number of people who keep returning to these conferences. Just yesterday, somebody came to me and told me that he had attended 11 of the last 12 conferences of the IIC.
Good, that's a lot.
That's a lot, and that shows that, and this person was a European at the moment living in the United States. And the last conferences have been in various places. So clearly this person had a good personal reason, was convinced that these conferences were worth attending, notwithstanding the travel cost and the inconvenience of taking a very long trip. So this is something concrete. We see that also in the seminars that we organize, the so-called Telecom and Media Forum. We have a large number of regular participants. So,
lastly, after the whole conference, the main theme is the trends of global communication. How can we sum it up for the trends of the global communication? I know we talk a lot about the spectrum allocation and regulation.
Well, I would say we have two major areas. One is building the infrastructure for the communication, and the other one is the content that is transmitted on the communication. Clearly, spectrum is a vital element of the infrastructure, because we see that, especially in Asia, more than in Europe and North America, mobile communications are important, so spectrum is a very important resource. And one will continue discussing spectrum for many years, because the needs are enormous. The expectations about the growth in mobile data traffic are spectacular. Then regulation is important when it comes to the networks, because especially in the fixed line business, One is trying to replicate a competition in areas where the market tends to be a sort of natural monopoly. And that will remain for many years an important issue. And then there is the question to which extent the government can intervene. So all this for the construction of networks. But this, as I said before, is the area where I think Asia will probably do better than Europe and the US. You already have countries that have spectacular results. Whenever people discuss in Europe and complain about the lack of high-speed networks, or the so-called next generation networks, usually in every complaint people will say, but look at the figures of the deployment of fiber in Singapore, Hong Kong, Korea, Japan. So Asia is already the example for many other countries.
We're moving fast, we're on a very fast pace.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much to you.